It's easy to sit on cakes and be crazy. It's hard to talk about your family stuff. Because this is when people know you, the cab driver over here knew me.
He knew you from where?
From my art.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. He's from Oakland. I said, oh, you know the hookup truck? He was like, no. I was like, yeah, that's me. He's like, I can't believe this. Because I was, doing some things that offended some people, but it's all about the conversation. So yeah, like the hookup truck lady is going to spill her beans about why she's so weird.
We'll find out if you're weird.
I think there was a reason I hounded you for this.
We'll find out the hard way here, or the easy way. Spy, tell me where you grew up.
I grew up in New Haven, Connecticut, which is just on the cuts of New York City. Mm-hmm. And we grew up in the cuts of New Haven, which is called Waste Haven, Connecticut. And, well, it's actually West Haven, but it's called Waste Haven because that's where all the factories from New Haven, the war machines, the, bombs and things they make there, they dump their waste and it has to go somewhere. So Waste Haven, we have the recycling, we had the junk from the plants, and I used to swim in this little lake called Phipps Lake. And we used to skim the dead fish off the top of it. And it was disgusting, but we didn't know it was disgusting, but they were dumping toxic waste in this thing. So It was kind of funny. I mean, now I look back, it's funny. It's a funny thing. But weird upbringing, weird lifestyle. My dad was I had a great conversation with my mom and found out more about my dad in prep for this, but I left when I was 16, so I didn't really know anybody. But when I grew up, my dad was like this wild man that kind of got, his wings clipped a little bit. And I think he became really, really resentful. But he was a gambler, and he was a banker that worked with mobsters. I didn't know that. My mom just filled me in on that part because I was like, who are all these weird guys? And it was like, oh, he worked with mobster guys, He wasn't a banker for the mob. He was just someone that was friendly because we're all New York Italians. So, and off the boat New York Italians. So, so anyway, all these characters around my dad, and he was a gambler, and my mom was like 15 when he got together with her. Well, when they became friends, he was 23, she was 15. So my dad, I don't know what made him this way. I mean, I'm sure there's just trauma all the way down the line, but he was like a really weird fucking guy and did really weird fucking things that when you're a kid are funny, but then you look back at, and then as you get older, it's horrifying. But clearing the plate into his pants. Like my mom would be like, oh, can you help us clear the table? And he'd be like, sure. And he'd take his little brown shorts, he'd take the bowl of spaghetti and just dump it into his pants. And then he would take the spaghetti sauce and make a happy face on his chest. And I thought it was funny. I guess my mom claimed I was laughing, but my sister was terrified. My sister now, all of this manifested in us in different ways, So it's like, my sister really didn't like this stuff, and she was horrified, and I guess I laughed, which maybe would explain why I got into sitting in cakes and throwing food and being weird in that way. I never made that connection. But yeah, my dad did all this weird stuff. We lived in this weird little place, this cul-de-sac, and at the base of the street, there was this park. And there would be flyers for cults and clothing. And one time we found a guy dead in the garbage can. He was just upside down. I didn't go to it. We just saw legs. But as a kid, that's all you need to see, just a pair of legs. That's not, But my mom is a really great lady. And she just was a child bride. So she just didn't know. She didn't know that my dad was this abusive. She just he trained her right into thinking that. And she was from a rough, place. It's people beat their kids. That was how, discipline happened. So they carried that on. But my dad got himself a child bride, and I was born right out of her high school. They were married and I was born. And he was gambling, he took pills. But he was also the guy that, like, when the child molesting teacher, he heard that this guy was a child molester, he went and hung the guy out the window by his ankles. And this is a true story. So my dad, I don't know if he was a gangster or like a low-level I don't know what he was. I really don't. I know that he beat the crap out of me. So, I don't know what, but I know that he did good. I know that he was generous to people on the street. I know that he gave money. When I would go buy his cigarettes, I would give the change to the guy in front of the store. So my dad, and this was just kind of something I realized, because I blocked him and everything else out, because it was too weird. It was like he got more and more abusive as I got older. And there's things I can't quite explain, some things. But there's some real clear memories of, like, him taking me places in the car, and he smoked, and he would fill the car up with smoke and tell me he was going to kill me, tell me he was going to tie me to a tree and kill me. Things like that. But it went really well with all this other weird shit that he did, So, like, none of it made sense. Why he would walk into a pool wearing a full suit, he was like a banker who hung out with mobsters, who took pills and liked to gamble, who also cared about people and would do things that were sometimes dangerous, but also, I guess, kind. Like
people are complex. People are complex.
Yeah. So, but he, this fucked me up real good. I mean, real good, because, like, I'm fist fighting with my mom. I'm fist fighting with not that I would hit back. It was spanking up until I was, like, however old. Like, that's how they would call it. Like, and it also fucks you up. Like, you don't understand what love is, because when someone tells you they love you and then they beat you because they had a bad day, like, it fucks you up, like, you don't understand love. And, like, so, so my dad did some weird shit, and the abuse got worse and worse, and it was, beating. And, but I found out later, only recently, because I didn't talk to anybody. I left. I went to the clubs. I mean, that's what I did. I didn't do a single thing when I was in high school. I didn't smoke. I didn't drink. I didn't fool around with boys. I didn't run away. I didn't do anything. I was so trapped. But I was weird. I was weird in a way that they didn't like. But that weirdness was nonconformity. I wouldn't do their religion. I wouldn't eat their meat.
Did you finish high school?
Not really. Not really.
When you ran away at 16?
It was probably a little closer to 17. I was already working. I was in the clubs in New York. So that's what started happening, is that, like, when I left my parents' house, it was like my dad was holding on to the roof of the car, or the hood of the car. I just got into my first fist fight with my mom. It was finally like I hit her back. It was it's terrible. Like, but, like, it was like she had been beating me. My dad had been beating me, but doing way worse with the psychological stuff, and way, way worse. And so I went to the clubs in New York. It was really great, because I started going to Rocky Horror, and I didn't drink, I didn't smoke, but I would go to Rocky Horror Picture Show at midnight. And so that's kind of what my school became. And then I saw, from Rocky Horror, I just went to the Limelight. And the Limelight I just went to the Limelight. And then I was like, high school was, who would go to high school after that?
Explain what the Limelight is for those that don't know.
Limelight is a nightclub in New York City that's inside of a church. And so, and it's really intact, or it was. And so you had the confessionals, and you had the stage was, elevated, kind of like, and everything. It was really intricate and beautiful place. This amazing nightclub with great music. I mean, right when the Years of Jungle, I was there for that, and it was like just a short period of time. It was so good. And the rooms were so good, and you could get away with anything. And I was like 17, and I was watching a guy, like, put Cheese Whiz in someone's butt and then suck it out, on stage. I saw, and I was like, whoa. And you'd go into the bathroom, and people would be fucking on the counter and it was like nothing. It was like nothing. And so I was like, wow, this is where I belong. Like, I've been told that I was wrong for being a vegetarian or whatever, just for not being a religion, not being a a meat eater. And it was, and looking weird and being not what my parents wanted, not at all. Person that, totally emulated Rocky Horror Picture Show at like 13. So that was rough for them. And so when I went to the Limelight, I was completely accepted. And not only was I accepted, I was given a name. And so high school, I was just beat down. Like, I was that girl that nobody liked ever. I was that girl. I had no family. I had no friends. But you go to the Limelight and it's like, you just look good and that's all that mattered. And you carry yourself in a way and that's all that mattered. So like, it's flashing lights and it's loud music and it's people dressed up in these crazy costumes and these parties happening and anything goes and everything was accepted and it was super easy, just as long as you were cool with everybody else. Then I got into the drugs because you're working at the Limelight. I'm like living on my own in New York City in a residential apartment, and they were paying me with Special K, and that's what it was called, ketamine. But this was in 1992 and 3. So ketamine is the currency. Limelight is, the social kingdom. And I just came of age there. And it was the greatest education I could have ever gotten. So, but things got really gross and weird and dark because drugs do that. And I was fucked up from my family, which is probably why I just went right into this. It was easy. Totally didn't think about anybody. Didn't think about never seeing my parents again or any of my family or anybody. No cousin, no aunt, no uncle, nobody. I just left. And so, but it was for survival. Like, I was not going to survive in that house. So for my own preservation, I left and went to this other place that then kind of was not good. But when things got dark, there's the night that I decided I was leaving. We were all in a drug pile somewhere in one of these apartments and passed out after a couple days. And I woke up on the couch in this pile of bodies and I heard this wet slapping. And I kind of was looking around and I saw this German Shepherd humping the face of its owner. And he was passed out. And it was just it's time to go. The party's over. It's not fun anymore. It was only, I was there for a short time. It was a period of years. But I knew that my art and what I was living for, which was my freedom of expression and who I am and believing in myself, which is why I left my house, because they weren't going to let me be me. So I had to escape. And then I went somewhere that was hell yeah, be weirder. Pierce every single thing. I worked at the piercing place and I worked at the nightclub. Pierced everything and then, did this at night. So, but after that party, after that night, I just decided I didn't really know these people and I was losing myself in these drugs. And so I left. And I went to California. I was with my boyfriend and we went to California. He was amazing and beautiful and awesome part of this story because without him, I probably wouldn't have been alive. So meeting him on a precipice of suicide and he just gave me the reason to keep, to do anything, to go to the nightclub or whatever. So anyway, we left New York and we went to Oakland, California, which was amazing and great. And it was just, I love Oakland so much. And I think Oakland is such a beautiful, rich city of culture and art and incredibly beautiful people. And so it was a pleasure to be in Oakland, but we had so much freedom. I mean, we lived in a van. We, ate food free everywhere, food not bombs, just ass out, no family, no money. Super weirdo from being bred in the clubs, super weirdo. So it's find a punk house, there's a squat, whatever. I was the one who knew Merle. Remember we spoke? Mm. Okay, yeah. I knew Merle from New York. Not that I knew Merle, but I knew Merle. Merle Allen and Gigi Allen. Yeah, I was there when Gigi died. But Merle used to come into the store that I worked at because I had 3 jobs in New York. One was in a rock and roll store, and Merle would come in and buy these ashtrays that were it was like a skeleton on a motorcycle with an ashtray at the bottom, or maybe some girl naked on the back, or like a sword. And he would just buy these things all the time. It's like, and I knew they were probably going to wherever Gigi was. So it was like, I was thinking about my ashtray being used by these guys, how exciting, the skull ashtray with Merle and Gigi. But yeah, when he died, people were going body bag, because it was like the chant of heroin that they were selling on the street was body bag, because that's what killed Gigi Allen. It was crazy. It was like a chant throughout the East Village. Anyway, Oakland was awesome. I did lots of art there. I did Burning Man for like 21 years. Yeah, long time. From 95 to whatever that is. 21 years later, I stopped counting. I don't do math anymore. But yeah, it was awesome. I learned a lot there because I went from the nightclub to the nightclub. It was just like the next one was Burning Man outdoors. They were like pagans. I heard there were like, fire pagans with blood and sex and wine and outdoors. I was like, yeah, I'll go do that. Like with, electronic music and blood and sex. I was like, sure, I'll count me in. So we went to Oakland really looking for that. It was a band called Crash Worship. So we came looking kind of for like that scene, and that's how we found Burning Man. Burning Man, at that time, like the Seamen were doing like potato launchers at Jesus, just these awesome projects, blowing everything up, everything. 96, people almost died. I mean, it was, 3 people died actually, 96. I saw a guy, I didn't see it because he was over there, but a flare went up into the air and hit him, and it melted on him, like a flare. It was dangerous. Burning Man was super dangerous. It was like, yeah, like my friend's, his girlfriend, the guy got his head cut off on a motorcycle and his head just rolled to her feet. This isn't something that one person saw. This is like with crowds of people. And then we continued to do it. It's awesome. Throw a piano into the air with a trebuchet. It's like amazing. Set the piano on fire. Even better.
You think you were born this way, or is it something that came from your childhood?
I think it's a combination. I didn't realize that my dad was as weird until I started talking to my mom again, which was just a few years ago. It was amazing, rekindling. It was after, going through like incredible amounts of trauma that half of it was caused by myself, by my choices that were based in this childhood. But like until I could figure out that it was my choices and I wasn't being victimized, but I was creating that problem for myself. And then I figured out meditation, it's not, friends, parties, dancing, looking good, taking drugs, great music, whatever, right? Being popular, not being popular. It's all about how you feel within yourself. So know thyself is like what the ancient Greeks said. Know thyself. And that's sort of the fundamental to being well. Because if you know yourself, then you don't do what my dad did, which is, stop being a rebel who rides his motorcycle and instead take a child bride and then have a bunch of kids and then be resentful and hate your life, because that was what everyone expected you to do. In this context, be a Catholic, do these things, all this, and this. And my dad hated it. And he became so mean. So I think the weirdness just got so skewed. But yeah, he was really weird. And then the clubs and that weirdness of like, because then I became a performance artist because of New York, being in the clubs. So, doing all these things, crazy performance art, people are going to look at me anyway. So in New York, I used to like get in a fist fight. I was mean. I would fight all the time. Not that I was really good at it, but I had like a retractable club and somebody took a picture, made fun of me, knocked the camera out of their hand, I'm not a novelty for you. I'm just living my life. Like, get the fuck away from me kind of thing. But now everybody takes pictures of everything and everything is like whatever. But then the clubs were their own thing. Like you just did what you did, but it was only for those people. And Burning Man was the same thing. You did what you did, but it was only for those people. And it was like no cameras, no nothing. Like you had to be there. Rocky Horror was the same thing. So this is like in my life, it's this authenticity.
What do you feel about Burning Man now?
Oh, I would not go near it with a 10-foot pole. I left the city. I now live in the woods. Like, I can't handle how perverted and obscured everything has become. It hurts me to the core because I'm a super loving humanitarian. Like, once I learned to love myself, like, fuck, I love everything. And even the people that are shitty to me, it's like, I don't care if you talk about me. I don't care what you think of me. Like, I'm still going to just, like, consider you part of the whole and whatever. But Burning Man is sad to me because it was so incredibly interesting in the beginning. And doing it for so many years, I got less and less involved. And people became more and more like about their positions because they're the people that made money. And then there's all the people that didn't make money. So it became like, you know? Like I did this show and I was like a hostess for this fashion show with my friend. And like, you know, I gave up on it. I didn't want to do Burning Man anymore. But then I passed it to this girl and then she got sick and they needed me to come in. And it was just like horrible for me because I came in and did the thing, not thinking that the repercussions that was going to have, right? I became a bad person, someone that you speak ill of because I'm not there to defend myself. So that happens to people like me. And I don't care. It's always been like that. My family, they don't know what happened to me. I just disappeared. People in New York don't know what happened to me. I just disappeared. People at Burning Man don't. I just disappear. People in Oakland, I just left. Now I live in the woods, literally, like with no one. But I'm building something beautiful that I hope people will come and find the ways to love themselves and heal the way that I found. So meditation and cow hugging.
How are you living now?
I live so well. I live in the craziest place. You know The Simpsons, the show The Simpsons? There's Shelbyville. The Simpsons were based in this area that I live, and the town that I actually live outside of, because I live so far out there that I'm not even incorporated. Shelbyville in The Simpsons is based on the town that I live. The prison is there. Everyone is just, I mean, I don't want to say too much because it's my hometown. I love it. I actually got a tattoo of it because I'm so proud. You want me to show you? Shelbyville. This is Shelton.
Oh, that's great.
I actually got that for my 50th birthday.
So you have a farm?
Yeah, well, it's kind of a farm. It's a rock farm. I mean, it has lots of rocks. I'm working on it. I have to learn how to do all this stuff. So
Do you have animals?
I do. I have a 130-pound Mastiff. That's a puppy. And I have my other dog. I have some chickens. They're all named. And then we're adopting a cow and a donkey. So Burrito and Milky. So that's what's happening there. And the cow and the donkey will be for hugging. So they'll be like raised from baby to older so that they're used to hands and being grabbed, but really the medicinal quality of hugging a large animal, it reduces your heart rate and it makes you sort of feel like you're in utero again. So it's really like animal affection therapy is a thing. People love their dogs and cats and stuff for a reason, but like getting a big animal, getting your arms around a big animal, nuzzling into one, it calms a person in a way that it's not like anything else. You can't replicate being in utero, but this is simple. It's similar.
You have no kids?
I do have a kid.
You do?
Yeah.
And he's with you? Or she?
He's old now. He's old.
Did you raise him?
I did. I raised him till he was 10. And then that's my trauma. That's part of my trauma. Yeah. So I raised him with all of this. He was part of the circus. He loved it. When I got pregnant, all of the craziness calmed down.
This was when you came to California?
I was in California for a while. I actually lived in Europe and I opened a gallery out there and I got pregnant by a stranger here in California. And unfortunately, that was a bad mistake. And I learned a life lesson that I can't take back. And it keeps me honest and it keeps me real because I take responsibility for my part of it. And I love my son so much and I'm so proud of his light. I'm just sorry that he I'm sorry that I didn't have more money, that I didn't give in to calling my family for help. That it took me bottoming out and like having him go away.
Where did he go?
To his dad. But his dad is an abuser, just like my dad was. So it was my mistake, you know, and then to believe that if you just do what they say, then they'll change. And you just jump through every hoop and make every promise and do everything right, then they'll keep their end of it. And it just, you know, it all ends in rape. So just what it is. But that situation really is what helped me open my eyes to not just being a fun artist, not just being somebody that like, because I'm a great mom. Like my heart is so good. And with all this crazy stuff I did, my son had the most honest and loving and attentive stay-at-home mom. I was with him around the clock when I wasn't, you know, when he was with his dad, that's when I went and blew up pianos.
How did he lose you?
It was just a custody fight. I left the guy. I didn't know him. You know, he wanted me. I don't want to talk about this too much, but because I lose it, you know what I mean? I didn't know the guy, you know, and I just was really wild and I went with it and I shouldn't have. And there was drugs and there was alcohol and there was a place to stay. And I was just living between countries.
Let me change the topic a little bit.
Okay.
What are your biggest regrets?
My biggest regret is not calling my mom when the father of my son was abusing me. And just saying like, it's all in the past. Just like, let's get together and help me out here, you know? But the redemption is that I learned such a hard lesson. There's so much humility that comes from the greatest loss of your life. So if you can hold it and just like, if you can be honest with yourself about what you did wrong. Thanks. I'm sorry, I didn't want to do that. Thanks. Yeah, it's just my kid, you know, it's the thing that I was not going to talk about. Because like as a performer, I can just laugh and make everything a joke. I do. I make everything a joke. So.
Is that a defense mechanism? Or
a coping skill.
Yeah.
Like not defense because I'm not.
Yeah.
No, I'm not in that.
It's just a way to cope.
It's coping. It definitely is coping. I make everything a joke, everything. So like sex. Anyway, I don't want to skip all over the place. Am I on point? Where do you want me?
You're doing good.
Okay.
You're good.
Yeah, my kid is amazing. I'm sorry that happened. I wish I could change it.
Do you still talk to him?
Oh yeah, I just talked to him yesterday. He's so excited that I'm doing this. Yeah, I told him I wouldn't, reveal anything about him because that's his journey and I don't need to. But he's doing well and nothing really happened to him except him witnessing my misgivings, my missteps. That's it. There was never a drug. There was never, because I stopped doing drugs. I don't even, I haven't done drugs or alcohol in so many years. Although I did have a drink at the bar last night and I regretted it because then I was sick this morning. But I don't have a problem with drugs or alcohol. I just love my art and my life. I love life too much to fuck it up with anything. So it's like that kind of lust for life. That's what got me out of my parents' house. That's what got me out of New York. That's what got me out of Oakland. That got me to where I am now in this beautiful, peaceful place where I meditate 40 minutes a day, every day.
It seems like that's where a lot of people who are in the New York, the fast lifestyle of New York City, or even California or whatever, they all end up going out to the desert, the woods, the whatever.
You come up fighting. You're like, every inch of space, you got to fight for it. Like, you got to be so tough. I'm so tough. I'm so tough that it's scary. That's why I have to because I'm so tough. Like, I've survived so many fucking crazy things. And I'm sure you've just heard a million stories, so I don't want to bore you with a million stories, but I've survived like a cockroach. Like, it makes no sense. And that's why at this point in my life, at 50, I'm so grateful because I honestly can't believe, because I was self-destructive. Couldn't believe I made it here. Can't believe that I'm the age that I am. And I'm still so happy and playful, making goofy videos that half the people hate and they always tell me I'm stupid or this is dumb or I do not care. I do not care if you don't like my outfit. I do not care if you don't like my shoes. I do not care. It does not matter to me at all in the least bit. I have fought my whole life. And then when I stopped fighting, it was like this empowerment. I could do anything. Anything. So going out into the middle of nowhere by myself and building a barn so I could do meditation with cows and donkeys. Like, yeah, not for everybody, but for who it is for, for who it's for, it can change your life. It can change their life. It changed my life. Totally changed my life. Completely. There isn't a part of me that isn't like, doesn't live in humility and like in compassion for others constantly. You know, how can I help other people?
If you had your life to live all over again, what would you have done differently?
I would have called my mom. I would have called my mom. I would have called my mom because I didn't see that she was a child bride who had no idea that beating her children was wrong. She's such a nice lady. She was so talented. She never got to appreciate any of that ever get developed. So that's it. You know, that's the only thing. If I had called my mom, my son would have never been hurt by the situation he was put in, which was two parents who were fighting, one of them being unwell, you know, and which was what made me unwell, ultimately. And then I got sick from mold poisoning, and that's why he ended up going. My house got moldy, I lost everything I owned. And once again, I had built it all up, had a house, had my kid, you know, all this, and you lose it. But this is what trauma and suffering is. Like, if you can get a hold of suffering, you won't have the trauma. Dealing with the suffering is where the solution comes. So like, I had to bottom out. I learned all this shit the really hard way by myself. You know, no money in Australia, in walking through Spain. It was cheaper to travel than it was to live here. I mean, are you kidding? I could live like great just traveling everywhere. So that's what I did for years and years. But I got back again, built it all up. You know, I've got my kid, everything. And then you get challenged again. But this is 8 years of daily meditation, 40 minutes. So when the next series of shit goes wrong, really wrong, I'm like dealing with it in this whole new way that then doesn't have me in PTSD, living to survive kind of situation, mindset and action. You get this space between emotion and reaction. Like you get this like little space, and the more you do it, the more space you get. So over time, like shit goes sideways and you're like, okay, all right. But yeah, that's where I'm at now. I still do my art stuff. I mean, like I said, the guy in the taxi over here knew who I was from my hookup truck, which that's how most people know me.
In Oakland?
Everywhere, but in
Really?
Oakland. That's where they remember it, because the hookup truck was homed in Oakland. But when it happened, it was 2014, and that was kind of the project that was heard around the world, because it was pre-time. It was pre-Snapchat, pre-TikTok, so it was like 2014. So like the news was writing, I had news reporters following me, and like, you know, there weren't bloggers as much, but they were. But it was like, it was insane. It was insane. Like Time Magazine, you know, Huffington Post, the Daily Mail, like everybody around the world. You know, I had this sex truck. But really, it was my art. It's what I do. So the truck was this way to talk about sexual freedoms as a human right. But what I did was say that I was a business that had a hotel room in a truck, and that you could call me and I would bring my hotel room to where you were, and then you could use it for 30 minutes. And it had everything, condoms and dental dams and sprays and incense and I have a card for you. It's really funny. The language that I used on the card and on the advertisement, because all I did was put up a website. That's all I did. And then I told some of my friends that were like bloggers or people who were active online, and they wrote about it. And then it just blew up because people assumed that I was like a madam running a prostitution ring, or there was something tawdry going on. Really, it's called conceptual art. And I just wanted people to talk about what's right and what's wrong and have conversations about what freedom is. I mean, why can't we fuck in a truck if nobody's there and nobody knows and it's on private property? Like, why? What's the problem? Like, oh, I was called disgusting. I'm the, sign of the apocalypse. Like, people were so incensed. Oh, so upset.
People get upset about sex.
Very upset about sex. But that's why it's great. It's kind of an easy thing to make art about because it gets a reaction. That's why I'm so dismissive of like overtly sexual art and film and things. It's so easy. It's so easy to get a reaction from somebody. Yeah. Like, it really is. So
what are you afraid of? What do you worry about now?
Now? Worried. Try not to worry. I am concerned for people's compassion and empathy for others. That's what I'm worried about. I am concerned that people are losing touch, so much so that everyone sees everyone else as an enemy, and that's so dangerous. Yeah.
A lot of that going on.
There's a lot of hate.
And one last question, Spy. What would you say is the most important lesson you've learned in your life?
How to forgive.
It's a great one.
Yeah.
It's probably the most important one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Spy.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming down.
Thanks, Mark.
When I was designing the first Soft White Underbelly book, I realized that there were so many great portraits that weren't going to make it into that book. They just wouldn't fit. And once I saw how well that first book sold, I knew I'd have to design a second book. This second book is finally ready to ship. Like the first one, this book has a collection of some of the best portraits from Soft White Underbelly, accompanied by a quote from that person's interview. This book features another group of Rebecca portraits, as well as a collection of color images of the Whitaker family, and plenty of others. You can order yours for $125 or $150 for a signed copy at softwhiteunderbelly.org. Again, like the first book, once this book is sold out, I will not be printing more of them. The portraits are what Soft White Underbelly is all about, and these two books contain the best of all that work. Thank you for watching.